Russia 2018 was not a good World Cup for Egypt, who were competing in their first finals since Italia 1990. It had been an excruciatingly long wait for the Pharaohs, who'd been Africa's best team for much of the intervening time, winning 4 African Cup of Nations. Most memorably, Egypt's golden generation won 3 consecutive titles between 2006 and 2010. But Egypt just couldn't quite make it to the World Cup. In the run-up to Brazil 2014, the team was struggling to cope with the aftermath of the Tahrir Square revolution and the cancellation of the Egyptian League after the Port Said massacre, where 72 Al Ahly fans were killed after a match against Al Masry. Mohamed Salah came of age in qualification for Brazil 2014, starring with the mercurial Mohamed Aboutrika, even though the team missed out in the playoff round, but 4 years later, Salah would not fail for a second time. It was his injury time penalty against Congo at the Borj Al Arab Stadium in front of 80,000 people that clinched Egypt's long-awaited place at the World Cup. At a time when Egypt's economy was faltering and the revolution which once promised so much was becoming a distant memory, Salah was a hero for the times. As the World Cup approached, murals of Salah popped up all over the world, from Cairo to New York. Profiles were written about his home village and his quiet philanthropy. He was a non-political figurehead who made the country proud, not least when he scored 44 goals for Liverpool FC in one record-breaking season. So, when Sergio Ramos famously judoed Salah to the floor and out of the Champions League final, Egypt was stunned. Would the greatest Egyptian player of his generation make it to the finals? Egypt's president, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, said he was praying for Salah. One Egyptian lawyer launched a lawsuit against Ramos for $1 billion. Salah would heal and make the plane to Russia, but there were times when it appeared that it might have been best if he'd stayed at home instead. Trouble was brewing before the World Cup when a huge image of Salah was used on the team plane, provided by WE, a mobile phone subsidiary of Telecom Egypt. The problem was that Salah already had a sponsorship deal with its rivals, Vodafone. Members of the Egyptian board were asked to explain themselves to the country's sports minister before Salah was offered an apology. From then on, the squad was embroiled in PR disaster after PR disaster. The enduring image was Salah, hand in hand with Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov at the Akhmat Arena in Grozny. The Egyptian FA decided to base itself in Chechnya, but Kadyrov is a deeply controversial figure, an Islamist strongman who switched sides during Chechnya's bloody wars of independence. Anointed by Russian President Vladimir Putin, he has ruled the republic with an iron fist and been embroiled in numerous human rights scandals, the most recent being the alleged rounding up and torturing of gay men and women. Human Rights Watch warned that allowing Kadyrov to host Egypt would be to sports-wash Chechnya's reputation. Kadyrov is also a huge football fan, who funds Chechnya's Akhmat Grozny, and often flies in former star players for exhibition matches which he himself plays in, often quite badly. Having Egypt, with one of global football's informed stars, come to his corner of the Russian Federation was a publicity coup he wasn't going to miss. So, when the Egyptian side turned up for its first training session and Salah wasn't there, Kadyrov simply drove to his hotel, woke him up and personally escorted him to the stadium. A string of set pieces followed. A huge birthday cake for Salah in the colours of the Chechen and Egyptian flag, a grand banquet, the announcement that Salah would be granted honorary citizenship. Salah never looked totally comfortable at the World Cup, and neither did Egypt, who lost all 3 games even as Salah scored twice. Later, once the dust had settled, reports began to emerge which offered one explanation for Egypt's unexpectedly poor showing. For one, CNN reported that Salah was weighing up whether to quit the national team altogether, unhappy that he had been put in such a vulnerable position that allowed him to be used politically. As soon as the story broke of Salah's alleged international retirement, one the Egyptian FA denied, a hashtag went viral on Twitter. I'm with Salah. When Salah's Egyptian home address was leaked, hundreds turned up at his home, not to berate him, but to cheer him. He came out and signed autographs. Weeks later, Salah's agent went public with criticism of the Egyptian FA, who he accused of doing nothing about the issue of image rights. It is not normal that my messages and my lawyer's messages are ignored. I don't know why all of this is happening. Do you not have time to respond to us? Salah later tweeted. He then released videos on Facebook explaining his position and offering a window in what went on in Grozny. At times, their training camp resembled a circus, with famous Egyptian celebrities milling around. It was claimed that Salah was woken up several times a night by people wanting to speak to him. He wanted adequate protection for himself and his teammates. We had many disturbances at the team's camp during our participation at the World Cup in Russia. I couldn't go to the restaurant twice as they told me you won't be able to go there for your own safety due to the crowd inside the hotel, he said in one video. The alleged response from the Egyptian FA didn't calm things down. One board member allegedly compared Salah to a pig. Another appeared to make a thinly veiled threat to Salah's mother, warning him that she still lives in Egypt. Both would later deny that the social media accounts in question were theirs, which were later suspended. Still, the worsening of relations between Salah and Egypt's Football Association shouldn't be taken lightly. The Egyptian FA has always been viewed by fans in the country as being highly politicised, especially during the years when Hosni Mubarak was president. Mubarak and his two sons, who were being groomed as his successors, would often visit the national team before important games, basking in the reflected glory of Egypt's golden generation. Under the current president Sisi, little appears to have been changed. Before the last presidential election, which was condemned for irregularities by the international community and where Sisi won 97% of the vote, the EFA held a press conference announcing it was publicly backing Sisi's campaign, even though such political interventions are frowned upon by FIFA. It was reported that such was the disillusionment with politics in Egypt that as many as 1 million people spoilt their ballots by writing Salah on them, which would have secured him second place in the election. But being hugely popular can be problematic in Egypt, especially if you fall on the wrong side of the powerful. Take Salah's hero and strike partner during qualification for Brazil 2014. The hero of the nation then was Mohamed Aboutrika, an absurdly talented midfielder who was also politically outspoken. When the revolution came in 2011, he supported it. When the counter-revolution wiped away the Muslim Brotherhood-supported presidency of Mohamed Morsi, Aboutrika was suddenly on the wrong side of history. He is beloved in Egypt and across the Arab world for being pious and moral. When he scored against Sudan at the 2008 African Cup of Nations, he peeled off his shirt to reveal a t-shirt underneath with the words "Sympathise with Gaza" on it, in protest over Israel's Operation Cast Lead, a bombardment of Gaza that killed as many as 900 civilians. I have written in my will that I want the Sympathise with Gaza t-shirt to be buried with me when I die, he said recently. He's now living in exile in Qatar, his assets seized after being placed on an Egyptian terrorist list for his perceived closeness to the Muslim Brotherhood and the previous government. Salah was a prodigy of Aboutrika. He even had the number 22 in his Twitter handle. 22 is an iconic number in Arab sport, as it is the number that Aboutrika wore throughout his career, except for a short spell at the UAE team Benaïas, where he wore the number 72 in honour of the Al Ahly fans killed at Port Said. Quietly and without many people noticing, the 22 was dropped from Salah's Twitter handle before the World Cup. If it came to a choice between Salah and Egypt's FA, there would be no contest. Salah remains loved in Egypt. In fact, he was called up for Egypt's next post-World Cup match, an African Cup of Nations qualifier against Niger. After all the talk of international retirement, Salah starred, scoring twice and missing 2 penalties. For now, the disagreement with the Egyptian FA appears at least partially to have been dealt with. Security was beefed up around the team before the game. But the argument highlighted just how important sports stars, especially famous football players, can become, and how the rich and politically powerful often seek reflected glory through their fame and achievements. Whilst they're playing and scoring like Salah is now, they can navigate a seemingly treacherous path. But once they're retired and have outgrown their usefulness, as had been the case with Mohamed Aboutrika, they can face a very difficult and uncertain future.